On Friday, the 11th of April at 16:43 Melbourne time, daylight savings time, I logged onto Skype and I noticed that my friend from grad school was online in Tokyo. I'd recently relocated to Melbourne after 20 years in Tokyo. I'm in a new town and a country where I haven't lived for around about 20 years. So I logged on and I said, "You busy? I'm doing never-ending class prep." And there was no immediate response. So I kind of added, "I've got a camera on this computer, but I can log on another one if you're free." I thought I'd give a tour of where I'm living now and let us see where we were. And I waited for a while and there was still no response. And then about 20 minutes later, I got the response, "Claire, big fucking earthquake." It was 15:03 Tokyo time and I had logged on just before the quake had hit her in Tokyo. By some uncanny coincidence, or perhaps my wonderful intuitive sense, I had made a connection moments before Japan had entered a state of extreme emergency. Separated by the privilege of distance in a new location thousands of kilometres from the epicenter, I embarked on what was to become a virtual experience, an experience made possible by a combination of new digital technology, social media networks, and terrestrial TV. For the next 6 hours, I digitally held the hand of a friend in need. I sat and she put on a helmet. She looked like she was out in space. She ran in and out of the house when aftershock after aftershock seemed too big to handle. She cleared away glass that had shattered through her apartment. I made her fill up the bath so she had water, and she got texts and messages from around the globe. She turned her computer onto her television and to the NHK broadcasts, and we watched. There were long periods of silence, and we sat there connected and connecting across a distance that just seemed impossible to cross, but at moments we didn't really notice it. It was trivial to what we were seeing unfolding on the TV. In the first short moments after the quake hit, NHK, the national broadcaster, and then the commercial stations gradually switched into emergency programming. And Cunningham writes about this. There's a good article if you can access it on the internet. And he writes, "To review broadcasts from that afternoon is to be transported back to a turning point in which everything suddenly changed. The state of TV as it existed at that precarious moment, good, bad, and banal as it might have been, is now a broadcast relic. The last grasp of normalcy before the earth shook Japan to its core. The sea swept the northeast with tsunamis, and a nuclear crisis broke the easy access to electric power that has been a hallmark of modernity in Japan for decades." So began this kind of before and after, a kind of you're there or you're not there, people having either access to emergency services, access to information, or nothing, a complexity of closeness, distance, and mobility. So connected as we were in Melbourne, we began to make inquiries as to the whereabouts of friends and family, exchanging emails, text messages, and the Skype was still working. So while the distance took away any possibility of being able to reach out and make physical contact to offer any kind of closeness, comfort, and solace, social networking technology did provide a means of connecting, of being able to work as a link. We could act as a Melbourne hub via which our friends and family could connect to people that they didn't know their whereabouts, whether they were safe.